Hey guys, it's Derek. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to give my 2 cents as to whether I think that there should be a Disneyland right here in my home country of Australia. Knowing that I'm a huge Disney fan, you may be surprised by my answer because the answer is not immediately a yes or a thumbs up. And I'm going to give you the reasons why I'm not giving this plan the go-ahead right at this minute. I don't claim to be a recent expert at Disney theme parks because I haven't been to one for about 5 years now. And the only theme parks I've been to are the ones in Hong Kong, the one in Anaheim, and I've been once a long time ago to Walt Disney World in Florida. I've not been to Shanghai, I've not been to Paris, I've not been to Tokyo, and I haven't been to any of the theme parks recently, but I think I can speak from a fair bit of experience of the amount of time I've spent at the Anaheim Disneyland Resort and let you know why I think that things may not necessarily work out the same way here in Australia than it does over in California. The first thing I have to say is financially, Disney would have to have a major investment in land, in infrastructure, and all those sort of really, I'm talking about millions and millions, if not billions of dollars that they would need to actually find a location that's suitable for a theme park. There's been whispers on and off in media for a long time now that they were thinking about getting a Disney theme park or a Disney resort over here. Many years ago, they spoke of having like a Disney kind of resort near the Sydney Harbour, and that went to pot because no one wanted it here. And now, in the recent years, they've been talking about whether they should actually bring a theme park down under, and there's apparently even some mayor in Victoria or something who thinks that Victoria is a great place to have a Disneyland Australia. Now, the fact that someone can just throw a harebrained idea like that, they obviously don't know anything about Disney culture. Yes, it would bring some interest for people to visit that area, but first you've got to think about the financials. Now, Disneyland is not a cheap thing to run. I don't know the specific statistics exactly, but I'm of the belief that you need millions, if not millions, of visitors every year for the theme parks to break even, because there's a lot of expenses to go in and running a big theme park, and that extends beyond actually procuring the real estate, getting the infrastructure, and actually building the darn thing itself. The last thing I want to see is for someone to decide that this is a good idea and for Disney to actually fall into the trap, which I know they won't, of creating a half-assed Disneyland here in Australia, which is going to appeal to nobody. Having been to the 3 theme parks, as I've said, Disneyland Resort in California is definitely my all-time favorite because that's the one I'm familiar with. I also think that Walt Disney World has its own mystique because it's such a huge land. There's so many theme parks and there's no way that no one's going to not enjoy themselves there. Having a look at a smaller theme park like Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong, for all its brilliance and all the cool stuff that you can see there, especially Mystic Manor, because I love Mystic Manor and you don't get that attraction anywhere else. The rest of the theme park compared to California is reasonably lame. There are not that many lands, there are not that many rides, there are not that many stores, the range of merch is lower, and it just doesn't have the same feel as a Disneyland resort in California. People got to remember that the Asian theme parks are pretty much kind of, especially the one in Hong Kong, is pretty much as frequented by visitors who either transit through Hong Kong or people who visit from places like Australia. Americans don't go to Disneyland Hong Kong. Chinese people used to go to Disneyland Hong Kong, but now they have their own Shanghai Disneyland, and I think their traffic down to Hong Kong to go to Disneyland is much lower. But realistically, the only Asian theme park that a lot of the Americans, which is a large percentage of the people who like going to Disney, if they were to leave the US, which a lot of them tend not to do anyway, but the people who tend to leave the US to go to an alternate Disney theme park tend to go to Tokyo because they got Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. And from what I can gather, Tokyo Disneyland is pretty awesome and the Americans love it. So why would overseas tourists want to come to Sydney or Melbourne or wherever they're going to put a Disneyland in Australia to actually visit Disney on purpose without just making it like kind of a obligatory visit because you've got some kids and you happen to be here anyway? And I don't frankly see any good reason for someone to travel to Australia to see a Disneyland, especially if they make a half-assed Disneyland like the size of the one in Hong Kong. Now, I'm no expert in town planning or city planning. There's really only 2, maybe 3 places that you could put a Disneyland in Australia to even be remotely have the possibility that it's going to be profitable. There's Queensland, where you've already got some theme parks like Movie World and Sea World and all that stuff, and they've been proven that they've been a bit meh. There is New South Wales, and there's Victoria. From my experience in Anaheim, now the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim is surrounded by other stuff to do. So there is malls, there is the beaches, you're an hour and a half from Los Angeles, you're an hour and a half from San Diego. There's kind of a lot of stuff, and a lot of people travel down there and they go to the factory outlets. Where are we going to get something similar that's going to pull crowds to a Disneyland resort, and what are they going to do when they're not visiting Disneyland? You are not going to be able to put Disneyland right in the middle of the Sydney or the Melbourne CBD because the cost will be astronomical. If you consider that each house is $1 million minimum to buy, you'd have to buy all this land, tear all the houses down, and then develop your theme park. It's going to cost billions of dollars, and there's no way that's ever going to be profitable. So they're going to have to put it somewhere on the outskirts of town and basically just create another kind of Walt Disney World. And the thing about it is, to do that, you're going to need to have something that's going to attract people who necessarily don't want to spend every single minute of their vacation in a Disney theme park. So you're going to have lots of other entertainment. You're going to have lots of restaurants. You're going to have lots of other things to do. Like I said, factory outlet stores, beaches, something else to attract people who don't necessarily want to go just to a Disney theme park. And then you're going to need to have all the infrastructure. Where are you going to put it? Where is it going to be easily accessible with transport? So you're going to have big highways. You're going to have lots of places where people can stay. You're going to need to have lots of public transport, whether that's train, whether that's plane. There's got to be some way that people can get there without having to sit in the car for 3 hours if they don't want to, or if they don't have a car. Disney will never build a theme park in a location where they don't think they're going to make their money. Hong Kong has been losing money for years with their Hong Kong Disneyland. Recently, until the pandemic struck, they started to turn those around and actually started making money. So Disney's not going to want to sit at an ongoing loss. And a lot of the things, like if you think about it, again, I'm taking my experience from the US. You have Walt Disney World where everyone goes to because that's the biggest. It's got so many theme parks. There's so much to do there. Everyone who doesn't live in Florida goes to Walt Disney World. And then you have California, which is a different beast to Orlando, mainly because there are a lot of annual pass holders in the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim. A lot of people don't necessarily live in Anaheim, but they live in, say, LA or they live in San Diego, and they just drive there and it takes a couple of hours. They can go there for a weekend, they can stay over. People who live close by can actually just pop into the theme park for a couple of hours after work or on the weekend with their kiddos, and then they can just go home. So what population segment, what tourist segment are we going to aim for by building a Disneyland here? Okay, let's say, for argument's sake, that they're going to build a Disneyland on the outskirts of Melbourne, say in Victoria, where it's kind of a little bit country because they can get large acres and hectares of land without having to pay a bomb. They somehow miraculously have the infrastructure. They've built all these hotels. There's all this other stuff. They've got factory outlets now. They've got restaurants. They've got other attractions that people are going to go and want to see. What sort of people are they going to attract there? Yes, you're on the outskirts of town. You might get a few locals. You're not going to get a lot of locals. And then you're going to rely on tourists. I genuinely don't believe that there is enough of a pop culture or cult following of Disney here in Australia for there to be a lot of people who would go crazy, get annual passes and go visit a lot and spend loads of money in a theme park. I just don't see right now, because Australia has not been exposed to that Disney culture, and the fact that I don't see a lot of people in Australia walking around with $50 Mickey Mouse ears, walking around with Stitch plushes in the theme parks, buying $7 churros and just spending hundreds of dollars every day. I just don't physically see it in great enough quantity that it's going to make a Disneyland in Australia profitable. I genuinely don't. As much as I'd love to see a Disneyland, I'd only want to see one here if it was good. And to be good, it'd have to have all the essence, all the great stuff that you see in the US theme parks. You need parades, you need fireworks, you need a big castle, not a baby castle. You need heaps of attractions, not just one roller coaster and a couple of teacups and a slinky dog. You need to have all the lands, not just a couple of lands, and you need lots of stores where you get a lot of merch. You can't get Disney merch here in Australia anyway. What's going to make Disney import all this stuff and try and sell them to theme parks? Because no one has created the demand here to actually have physical stores here in Australia to actually buy their merch. So that's one major obstacle. And the things that people do in theme parks, to me, seems to be different between here and, say, in the US. In the US, it's kind of family friendly. You spend $50 on ice cream rather than $50 on alcohol. And even though you can get alcohol in Disneyland, and especially you can drink in Disney California Adventure, there's all these restaurants that you can get alcohol. To me, alcohol doesn't seem to be a big thing in the Disney theme parks there in the US, and I'm not sure that that's going to be the same over here. And it kind of puts Disneyland in Australia, if there's a large sort of adult gathering where people like to drink, it seems to me that it's going to make it less family friendly, because the last thing you want is when you have small kids and you take them to theme parks, you don't want a whole bunch of adults being intoxicated, and that's going to be really hard because I think the culture is just different. And I keep going back to this fact. It's just that I just don't think there are enough people in Australia who have either been exposed to the culture of Disney and actually have gone in fully into that culture where they're going to go to the theme parks to have fun, do crazy things like queue up 2 hours for a ride, wear Mickey Mouse ears, eat Mickey Mouse shaped ice creams that cost $7 each. I just don't think there's going to be enough interest in that to actually make it a profitable thing for Disney to run a theme park in Australia. I know that there will be a lot of people who don't agree with what I say on this video, but I'm just telling you the facts. Economically, Disneyland doesn't make money from having loads of kids there. They make money by having lots of Disney-loving adults who are prepared to spend big bucks on Disney merch. And I just cannot, at this point, see a lot of adult Australians splurging hundreds of dollars every time they go to a theme park, because every time we go to Disneyland, we spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Disney collectibles, Disney plushies, Disney pens, Disney postcards, key rings, t-shirts, not to mention the food that we eat there. And, you know, Disney is iconic because they have stuff like milkshakes and corn dogs and turkey legs and popcorn and Mickey Mouse shaped ice cream and fairy floss and all this kind of stuff. I just don't know how interested the people down under are going to be in this stuff. And you don't want it to be kind of vanilla, if you know what I mean. You want to have the proper experience. You want the Dole Whips. You want the Dryer's ice cream. You want people walking around actually carrying $300 made-yourself lightsabers and R2-D2 robots. You want that kind of stuff, and that's, sadly, I just don't see that happening. If I was the CEO of Disney and I had any thoughts of potentially bringing a Disney theme park into Australia anytime in the distant or near future, the first thing I would do is I would experiment by trying to get some physical Disney stores here just to gauge interest. And I would promote the heck out of Disney merch to make people actually want to buy it, and people want to pay that sort of money to get stuff that you can't get at Kmart or Target or Myer or any of the or Big W, and just see whether you can even sustain a couple of Disney stores. You've seen in the US, a lot of Disney stores are actually closing because they're not profitable. If you can't make Disney stores profitable here, how are you going to make a Disney theme park here profitable? Yes, the Australian government, of course, they're going to want a new Disney theme park because it's going to bring in, theoretically, more tourists. It's going to bring more money into their coffers. But ultimately, is it a sensible decision? Is it actually going to do what they say it's going to do? Or is it going to be like an abandoned amusement park? I love going to Disneyland. I enjoy going when there's low crowds, but I don't think I'd enjoy going if there was no crowd, because then the atmosphere is not there. If you walk into Disneyland and, you know, it's Christmas Day and there's nobody there, it's going to be pretty disappointing, and the atmosphere is just going to go, well, I'm not going to come here anymore. If you go there and you're going to have to line up 2 hours for an attraction, which I've been known to do plenty of times in the US, they better be good attractions, and I better feel like I'm enjoying my time there. They're going to have characters walking around. You're going to have friendly people. You're going to have friendly cast members who joke and entertain. You're going to have fanfare. You're going to have music. You're going to have food. You're going to have snacks. You're going to have all of that stuff. And that is the magic of Disney, and I just don't know that they're going to be able to capture it down under. So, yep, I'm sorry. I know that this is not what Disney in Australia fans want to hear. I don't want to be the wet blanket. I don't want to be the party pooper, but I just can't see that there's going to be enough of us adults who are this obsessed with Disney that they're going to pay an arm and a leg. They're going to pay over $1,000 a year per person for annual membership. Please don't send a Disneyland or build a Disneyland down in Australia, which is going to be a half-hearted effort where near enough is good enough, and we'll just okay and deal with the fact that right now as we open, there's only going to be 2 lands, and maybe we'll build some more in the future. In this economy now, people are really conservative with their money. If Disney wants to come, they're going to need to send people down here who actually know about the Disney people in Australia, and ask people like us, people who are that obsessed that they make a YouTube channel all about Disney in Australia, and see what we think about the viability of putting a Disneyland here in Australia. And one thing I just wanted to say as well, and this is also another reason why I don't think Disneyland's going to work in Australia, is the customer service. The cast members in the US, they'll do anything to make your day special. I've heard so many great stories, and I've even been to situations in Disneyland in California where the people, like the attendants, the people who actually visit the park, are so nice. You know, they look after the kids, even if it's not theirs. We had an incident where we were at Paradise Pier, and we had a really small kid, and we were in those arcade game things, and she got really upset because she could never win any of the games because all the adults were playing. The adults actually won stuff, and they gave it to my kid. And I just don't see that happening here. That is the magic of Disney. Things happen in Disneyland that doesn't happen in the outside world. And when you walk through the gates of Disneyland, when you first see that castle, it's like everything else disappears. It is actually beautiful, and it's actually truly magical. And that's the way Disneyland and Disney needs to stay. So right now, it's a no from me. I'd rather pack my bags, fly 15 hours, risk catching COVID on a plane, and fly to the US to attend a proper Disneyland than to attend the one that they build in New South Wales or Victoria, where I could potentially either drive to or I could fly to in an hour, because I think the experience is going to be different, and not different in a good way. So thank you for watching. Leave a comment below. I think I'm going to expect a lot of, yes, I agree with you, but also similarly, I think I'm going to get a lot of, no, you're an idiot, you're just speaking nonsense, and Australia would be a perfect place for the folks at Walt Disney to put another theme park. Sorry, I just don't agree. One day we might get one, but I think it would really depend on having a major change in the interest that adults in particular show here in Australia in terms of Disney merchandise and Disney attractions. But anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you like my video, and I'll catch you next time in another video. Have a magical day. Bye.